Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. My closest buddy, Jake, made some slightly dumb choices and sent a few risque pics to this girl he had been chatting with online. He didn't know much about her beyond her first name, Ava, her username, and that she lived somewhere out on the West Coast while he was over here in Chicago. She had mentioned coming to the city for some work thing soon, though, and they were supposed to finally meet up in person. Well, Jake got cold feet after a while and tried to back out of the whole thing with Ava. That's when this psycho chick threatened to leak his nude pics all over the internet as revenge. Now here's where it gets good. I'm a lawyer by trade. I did some digging, found her Instagram from the pics she sent Jake, and that led me to her LinkedIn with her job and everything listed. Matched right up with the company polo she had on in one of her selfies. From there, I managed to hunt down the email addresses for her boss, the HR director, PR person, you name it. I fired off a lengthy message on Jake's behalf with all the evidence. Screenshots of her threatening the revenge porn, pics tying her username to her real identity, shots of her personal vehicle's license plate that she sent to Jake, even a photo that dumbass took of her computer with her whole work calendar and confidential files pulled up that she sent to prove how busy she was. I straight up told her employer that this unhinged psychopath was not only extorting a private citizen with illegal tactics, but egregiously violating their company's policies by improperly accessing and distributing sensitive information. I made it clear that I'd be reporting her shady ass to the police out in California and filing for a restraining order since she had plans to come to Illinois soon. I even have a buddy in the U.S. Attorney's Office here who would gleefully hand it over to the FBI since this qualifies as a federal crime with her threatening someone across state lines like that. I wrap it all up saying that since I have her personal info and home address from that license plate pic, I will absolutely be getting local law enforcement involved first thing the next morning if they don't promptly fire her deranged ass. This vindictive little lunatic thought she could just hide behind some anonymous username and make criminal threats at my boy? Took me barely an hour to completely dismantle this chick's entire existence. The next one is an entitled People story. I've lived on my quiet residential street for over 15 years now. It's just a normal neighborhood with single-family homes and kids playing outside. Nothing too crazy ever happens here. That is, until a few months ago when the new homeowner association board members came into town. Let me give you a little background first. There's about 100 homes in my neighborhood and an homeowner association that's been around for decades. Most people here are members and pay their dues every year. The homeowner association maintains our little playground and landscaping around the entrance to our neighborhood. They used to host a block party every summer too. Overall, the homeowner association kept to themselves unless someone had an issue with a neighbor that they wanted addressed. But the old homeowner association board members moved away over the past couple years. That's when this new group came in and got voted onto the board. And let me tell you, they are power-hungry control freaks. As soon as they took over, they started implementing all these new rules and regulations. I'm talking things like what color you can paint your house, when you're allowed to put trash cans out, and how long your grass can be. Just ridiculous nitpicking stuff. Now, me and a few other neighbors refused to join the homeowner association from the beginning. We didn't want to pay dues or be involved in their nonsense. Our properties are on a little cul-de-sac separate from the rest of the neighborhood, so we figured the homeowner association had no jurisdiction over us. Boy, were we wrong. A few weeks ago, I started noticing one of the homeowner association board members driving around our cul-de-sac every day. He'd go super slow, stopping to write things down and take pictures with his phone. I asked him what he was doing one day. "I'm the new head of the homeowner association patrol committee," he told me proudly. "We're documenting and addressing any violations in the neighborhood." I told him he had no business patrolling our private street since we weren't part of his homeowner association. He claimed the cul-de-sac was part of the broader neighborhood, so they absolutely had jurisdiction. What a load of crap. Over the next week, the patrols increased. Multiple homeowner association board members started showing up, sometimes twice a day. They'd even walk right into people's yards. I confronted them again and told them to stay off our property. These power trippers basically said tough luck and that they could do as they pleased. That's when I'd had enough. I got the others on our street together and we decided to take legal action against the homeowner association. We hired a lawyer who helped us send a cease and desist letter, stating they were unlawfully harassing us and trespassing on our property. They didn't stop. If anything, the patrols increased. I then had to call the police on them multiple times for trespassing. The cops warned the homeowner association members to stay away, but these entitled Karens and Kens kept insisting they were allowed to be there. It was unbelievable. After nearly 2 months of this harassment, our lawyer helped us file a lawsuit against the homeowner association board members both individually and as an organization. We sued them for trespassing, violating our right to privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and failure to comply with the cease and desist order. The homeowner association tried claiming they were just doing their duty to enforce neighborhood rules. They said because our street was connected, we were under their jurisdiction. The judge thankfully saw right through their garbage excuses. He ended up ruling fully in our favor, saying the homeowner association had grossly overstepped their bounds. We were awarded a large sum of damages for all the distress caused. The judge also issued a restraining order barring the homeowner association from ever stepping foot on our properties again. If they do, he said they'll be held in contempt of court. The story got picked up by the local newspaper, and people were outraged at the homeowner association's ridiculous behavior. Many residents ended up leaving the homeowner association after this. With fewer members and the legal fees, the homeowner association struggled to stay afloat. Last I heard, they might shut down entirely. As for us cul-de-sac neighbors, we celebrated our court victory by hosting a big barbecue. No more homeowner association patrollers ruining the peace and quiet here. We can finally enjoy our properties without fear of those power-hungry bullies. This experience brought us closer together too. So in the end, we taught those entitled homeowner association board members that they can't walk all over people's rights. If they want to run their little dictatorship, they can only do it in areas where people consented to join. Never mess with someone's land or privacy unprovoked. They'll end up paying big time, just like the power-tripping patrol board learned the hard way. The next one is a petty revenge story. So some background. This happened when I was 15 during the 1980s, in the months before I had to leave home due to my abusive, alcoholic father's violence. My father would on every payday drink all his wage, sometimes not coming home for days until he was broke. The not coming home part was a mixed blessing. On one hand, my mom and I didn't have to deal with his abuse. On the other hand, I was always waiting for his footfall on the veranda, thus heralding his return home, and then it would start. Consequently, we were always struggling financially, with Mum's wage as a teacher barely covering the mortgage and living costs. I was expected to do very well at school, so I couldn't get an after-school job. Consequently, I never had money to buy the one thing that kept me sane: hardcore punk music. I would play music while I studied and to channel all that angst and rage. The music was sourced from mixed tapes my mates would make for me. I have to say, even to this day, music, like the Dead Kennedys, gets me through tough times. I digress, so now to the petty revenge. The revenge started when one day I noticed my dad had come home dead drunk and placed his wallet and cash on top of a wall unit in the lounge room before he went to bed. I could see loose $20 and even a $50, lobsters and a pineapple. Australian slang, since the currency is colored and easily identified. That's when my plan started to form in my mind. Come the following payday, my dad did the same thing with his cash, so I kicked my plan into action. That morning, before he awoke, I pushed a $20 and a $50 off the top and down the back between the wall unit and wall. I had to be super cautious because if he caught on, I would have coped a hiding. So, 1. I left behind some cash, not taking it all. 2. I waited a few days before taking the cash I had hid. This was so that if he came at me, I could plead ignorance. I could go up to the wall unit and point out he must have accidentally knocked the cash behind the unit, being so drunk. Lo and behold, a few days later the cash was still there, and Dad was none the wiser. My assumption he is too drunk to notice missing cash was correct. I retrieved the cash. I slipped the $50 into Mum's wallet and kept the $20 with the anticipation that I could get some new vinyl. We are talking the late 80s here. How sweet that purchase of new music was. This game went on for a few months before I found him tearing up my room one day. He found nothing as I had my hiding spot. He had nothing on me. But the game was up. Forward a few more months, I leave home due to some pretty extreme violence, resulting in Mum getting legal support to kick him out. I returned home, completed school, and went to university. I never had anything to do with him again. Another kind of petty revenge. I still have that cherished vinyl collection. And in my 20s, I finally told Mum what I had done, Keeping her uninformed was to protect her at the time. She replied, "All those times of finding extra money in my purse puzzled me for ages. Now I know." The next one is a malicious compliance story. Over the past few days, I've become friends with a retired Army officer whom I will call Belle. She has been delighting me with stories of her service, and she shared this wonderful story that I think you all will enjoy. Names and some details have been changed to protect the innocent. Belle was a young second lieutenant at her first posting. As she put it, my college diploma had not even arrived in the mail and I was scared as hell. Fortunately, she got on the non-commissioned officer's good side and settled in pretty nicely. One afternoon, she was at work when in storms an officer's wife, looking like she was in the mood to cause hell. Belle kept her head down, trying to stay busy when she heard the dreaded words. "I am talking to you, soldier." Belle looked up and saw the woman, let us call her Karen because why not, standing in front of her. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Belle asked. "Yes, I am Major I'm so important's wife and I need to speak to Colonel Stone." "Do you have an appointment?" "He is busy," Belle asked. "Just go get him. I will stand right here until you do." Belle looked around, wondering what the hell she was supposed to do. She did not want to risk her job because Colonel Stone was known around the base for having a fierce temper. "I will have you knocked back down to private if you do not do as I say," Karen shouted. "Now move!" Wanting to get away, Belle got up and walked towards the colonel's office, intending to get away for a long enough coffee break that Karen would forget. When she looked back, she saw Karen was watching her like a hawk. So there goes that plan. Colonel Stone's door was closed and Belle knocked on the door. "Yes?" Colonel Stone barked. "Sir, it is Second Lieutenant Belle Smith," she said. "Come in." Belle opened the door, did the customary salute, and he immediately noticed how nervous she was. "What is it?" "Major, I'm so important's wife is here and she wants to speak to you," Belle said, her voice squeaking. "Does she have an appointment?" "She just said to go get you and she would not leave until you saw her." "I see. Did she threaten to knock you down to private?" "She did." Colonel Stone nodded and then said in a voice that scared Belle, "Send her in." Belle saluted and then went back to Karen. Karen looked absolutely smug. "He will see you now," Belle said. "See? Now that was not so hard, was it?" Karen said, strolling over to the colonel's office. At this point, a first sergeant named Sanders comes in. He just sits down and as the office door closes, he counts down in a low voice, 3, 2, 1. "What the hell were you thinking?" Colonel Stone shouted. For a good 5 minutes, he proceeded to tear Karen a new one, telling her that she is not permitted to wear her husband's rank, and that if she tries pulling anything like that ever again, her husband will be busted down to private faster than he could sneeze. Karen left the office like a bat out of hell, white as a sheet and quaking. Belle never saw her again, but she and the major got divorced shortly afterward. According to Belle, he realized what a liability she would be to his career. The next one is an entitled people story. A few years ago, I used to work at a large retail company on the overnight shift at the time. As many who have worked in retail probably know, inventory time is a big deal as it can determine whether we get a bonus or not, on top of having to do extra training if the shrinkage amount is really high. We had these devices that were used to do things like add or subtract items from inventory, print labels, keep track of what bins inventory was in, and so forth. Well, this one particular store, the department managers had talked the store manager into allowing them to store these devices in their lockers at the end of their shifts, which means no one else on any shift could use them, except in one department that needed the device to assist customers. About 4 weeks prior to inventory, I asked the co-manager to have these devices left for us so that we can start getting the back rooms ready for inventory, which means getting labels on all the boxes, and then the amount that is in each box, and if there is a row of the same item to put the correct amount for all the items of that particular item on the label. Day shift wouldn't do this because they were always too busy. For the next 2 weeks, we were never left any of these devices to get the back rooms completed. This will have been my 8th or 9th inventory, so I know that come inventory time, if the back rooms aren't done, it is always blamed on the overnight manager. So I spent my 2 days off, and bear in mind I'm salary so I don't get paid for this time, at work getting the back stock room completed. This was about 20 extra hours of unpaid time. I had come in early enough both shifts to be sure to get one of these devices before they were locked away in their lockers. My co-manager had seen me doing this when he came in the first morning, and he asked me why I was there, being it was my night off. I told him that since my numerous requests to have the devices available for us hadn't been done, I was there to get the bins in order. I figured when I came back for my next shift after my 2 unpaid nights that we would have some of these devices available for us to keep up on any leftover stock that needed to be put away in the bins. I was wrong. When I came in and seen that there were none left for us, to say I was pissed is putting it lightly. All that time spent, unpaid, and these department managers still think these devices should be kept to themselves. So I went to the HR office and got the locker binder. In this binder is the combination to all the padlocks on each locker. I also grabbed a flashlight and began going through every locker that was assigned to a department manager, and if I saw one of the devices in the locker, I opened it and took out the device. Luckily, the area had cameras, so it was easy to see what I took out of a locker. I found every device we had, put them in a shopping cart, and handed them out to the associates. Each one had a huge smile on their face and told me thanks. Around 6 a.m. I had the associates bring the devices back and put them in another shopping cart, because the last hour of the shift is spent cleaning up and zoning the aisle, meaning making all the product on the shelves look straight. Then I waited for the department managers to come in. They started trickling in around 6:45 a.m., and when they had seen the devices sitting in a shopping cart, well, you would have thought that someone had just taken their firstborns from them. Generally, what happens with me is the co-manager comes to the assistant's office. I get up and go walk the floor with him to see if there was anything I had missed or whatever. This morning, however, when he came to the office, I went to get up and he basically said, "Hold on, the store manager wants to talk to me first." I asked, "Am I in trouble?" He said, "Don't know, but I'll let you know." So I waited a bit until he came and got me and we started on our walk. I asked him if I was in trouble and pled my case about having asked for the devices for the last 2 weeks and got nothing. He said no, but if I decide to do this type of thing again, to at least warn him first. I had heard from some of the other assistant managers before I left that some of the department managers were really pissed and said I should be coached because how dare I go through their lockers. What they apparently didn't know was that company policy actually stated that company equipment is not to be left in lockers after their work shift, and if it is, we have the authority to go through their lockers and find it. I left and expected to once again not have the devices available for us because I was sure the department managers would get their way. When I came in that night, every device was sitting in an office for us to use, and it stayed that way every night up their inventory. The funny thing is, there was a song that was playing when the department managers had started coming in, and it was such a fitting song that now whenever I hear it, I think of this event. The song was Not Ready to Make Nice by the Dixie Chicks, as they were known back then. I don't think I did anything wrong, but I'm pretty sure the department managers thought so. The next one is an entitled parent's story. Okay, so for context, me and my fiancé got a little getaway weekend to Hamburg as a Valentine's Day present. We couldn't wait for the trip, looked into numerous museums, etc. to look at, and was just excited for the whole thing. Note, when we check into a flight with a certain airline, they charge you money for the seats, so we decided to wait until 24 hours before departure to check into our flight. This seat allocation is not meaning we get to sit together, unfortunately. Fast forward to the airplane. We all board inside the plane, take our seats. I say my goodbye to my fiancé, who is going to the back of the plane, whereas I stay in the front. I just sat down to my aisle seat, and here I hear a commotion next to me. A guy moving behind people who try to put their luggage above their seats shouts, "Move! Move, people! Move!" I'm like someone is a bit annoyed and has an attitude. The guy has a huge German accent in his English, so I assume his holiday didn't go as planned or just wasn't in the mood for the 6 a.m. flight. I thought that was that as he got past me still screaming. I don't know where his seat was, but I didn't hear him complaining. That was until everyone sat down and we were about to roll out from the gates. This guy starts screaming again in the back that someone is taking a photo of him. All I hear at this point is, "Did you just take a photo of me? I know you did, delete it now." And I'm like, what is going on? I notice the guy beside me laughing his ass off, and when I ask what's so funny, he says that the guy in the back is arguing with another passenger and is somewhat in the same row as this guy's friend. He saw what happened out of coincidence. See the passenger taking a selfie as normal people do. But this entitled guy thinks he's taking a photo of him just because of the angle he has been holding his phone. At this point, we are starting departure and explains further that they resolved it by showing the entitled guy that the photo only contains himself as a selfie should. An entitled guy is not even in the picture. This we didn't hear in the front, but a text in a group chat went out to this guy sitting next to me from his friend. The plane ride was silent. Entitled guy didn't make a sound on the plane until the plane landed. As soon as people can stood up from their seats, I stand up too, because I am on aisle seat. I thought, why not? I get off earlier from the plane and just wait for my fiancé in the tunnel. I notice that we only depart from the front of the plane. The entry of entitled guy again goes with the same line he entered this story. Move, people, move! Right behind me. Me watching too many Charlotte Dobre. I love you, Charlotte. The petty queen. A petty revenge formed in my head that I am still proud of until this day. Entitled guy arrives behind me repeating his line. Note the door is not even open yet. We just wait with our luggage to get off. A guy in green sweater in front of me turns around and goes off on entitled guy that he is not going to allow him to order him around. He will get off this plane when he wants to, and not because he orders so, and he has to wait. Entitled guy replies, why don't he sit down and let him through so he can go? Guy replies he is not sitting down. He doesn't want to, and stop trying to order him around. He won't tolerate it. Period. This guy behind me just fuming at this point. I see the crew opening the front door and they let 5 people off the plane, including green sweater guy, this way clearing the way in front of me. I stay in my place and let people from my row out to take their own luggage out from above and take other belongings. Entitled guy behind me take this as key to shout behind me a, seriously? But I take it with pride and a huge smile on my face. I let another woman ahead of me who is less confrontational, and as soon as she take out her bag, moves behind another seat to get ready to leave the plane. I say enough punishment for entitled guy, so I start moving forward. However, at the front of the plane, I get stopped by cabin crew to equal the balance to the end of the plane. Entitled guy shouts, why are we stopped? Go! Cabin crew try to explain this guy, but he doesn't seem to care, he just wants the cabin crew to let him off. They still trying to make reason with him for a few minutes, then as soon as the balance is good, they let us through. Entitled guy darts past me, visibly fuming as I see steam coming out of his ears. I knew I made the right decision. A couple people thanked me on the plane, mainly for the entertainment. I will never forget this experience and always remember to be petty to people who deserve it. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.